Welcome, guys, into Rover Sports. I'm here with Sports Doc, and we are here to report on some Antonio Brown breaking news, Doc.
Yep. Well, this has certainly been a saga all winter, all summer, and Antonio Brown created an incredible amount of headaches for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there was a lot of speculation, suspense as to where he would end up, and now we have clarity. Where is he now?
He is now part of the Oakland Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders. So the evil empire, captained by John Gruden and the ghost of Al Davis.
Mike Mayock traded third and fifth rounders to the Pittsburgh Steelers for Antonio Brown, a guy that led the NFL in touchdowns, a guy that I believe will be in the Hall of Fame in several years. Antonio Brown is 31 years old right now. He's still one of the fastest wide receivers in the NFL. And the way that I first look at the deal is, I mean, should I give my opinion first on the trade?
Sure, and then there's other issues around it that I want to ask you.
I believe that the Oakland Raiders won this deal. Because when you look at the wide receiver position, they gave Amari Cooper to the Dallas Cowboys. They gave Amari Cooper to the Dallas Cowboys, and they got back to 24th overall pick. Now, Amari Cooper, when Amari Cooper has no running game, he's not that effective. Also, Amari Cooper doesn't have he has bad hands. He drops a lot of footballs. So, combined with the fact that Amari Cooper was in this Oakland Raider offense and Doug Martin was the running back, and it's not like Oakland's offensive line is all that good. They just released a guard. They started 2 rookie tackles. It was really a rebuilding team, and Amari Cooper wasn't worth that kind of money. He wasn't worth that kind of dough. So the fact is now you go from Amari Cooper, who's like a B-plus wide receiver. I think Amari Cooper could actually be very good for the Cowboys, but now you add possibly one of the best receivers in football, but you only are giving away a third and a fifth round pick. I mean, you gave a third round pick for Martavis Bryant last year. You gave a Martavis Bryant and A.J. McCarron were third and fifth round picks. You absolutely destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers. And by the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers, by getting rid of Antonio Brown, this is the largest cap hit in the history of NFL football for a player, because the way the contract was structured, the Steelers were supposed to keep on to Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown's dead cap now. The Steelers now lost $21 million just down the drain.
So did they clear? No, you're saying, did they clear the space, or is it dead cap?
It's dead cap, $21 million.
So in other words, they can't use it. So that's really
it's devastating.
So the fact is, not only did he disrupt the chemistry of the team, not only he and Le'Veon, 2 were wrecking balls to the team, even jeopardizing the status of the coach. All that was true, but the biggest dead cap money ever. So for the Steelers, it's a matter of getting rid of him must be such a catharsis. It's almost like, I've never been divorced, but there's an old saying, why is divorce so expensive? It's because it's worth it. Well, for the Steelers, divorce was worth it for them because it cost them a hell of a lot of money.
I don't think it's worth it at all. I mean, because you look at the Steelers now, I mean, everyone believes that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to like fill in and be a good wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he's a slot wide receiver. He doesn't even play on the outside. So the Steelers, I mean, I think it's also a little bit of their fault that, you know, that they gave this guy all this money, that they let this guy get out of hand. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, he didn't do anything to try to mend the relationship of Antonio Brown. And
I'm not sure. Well, listen, I don't mean to interrupt or disagree with you, but you really don't know what happened behind the scenes. Whatever he did, it wasn't successful. I know that the Rooneys met with him. Mr. Rooney met with him. Apparently, they had some amiable departure. But, you know, obviously the Steelers wanted Antonio Brown, and it just
I think
didn't work
Antonio
out.
Brown's crazy. I think he's crazy. The blonde mustache, the way that he's been acting lately. He's kind of been all over the map with his statements. Like, I don't want to play football anymore. Then he's like, I'm releasing this thing on Instagram Live. Like, Antonio Brown's been acting wild.
He's a loose cannon.
First of all, me and you, we don't know any pro athletes. And if we knew them, then we wouldn't be on camera talking about them if we actually had a relationship like a friend. If Antonio Brown, if Big Ben Roethlisberger was our friend, we wouldn't be here talking about them on camera in this kind of way.
I disagree with that statement.
But
there's a lot of people.
95% of the people in the population that are commenting on this story don't know everything about the day in, day out of Pittsburgh Steelers football, okay? We don't know what anything's like in the locker room, but we have to project. And the way that I'm projecting is Antonio Brown, the relationship wasn't handled that well. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to suffer some big consequences in this process because the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm sorry, you can't turn the light on. That's.
Hey, listen. It's fine.
Okay, yeah. So once you do that, yeah. Sorry, we just had production went a little haywire here. Sorry,
we still look okay.
Sorry about the glare. It looks like we're in the middle of the Arabian desert. Hopefully we'll get a tan with all that light.
So I think the Steelers lost. I think Oakland's going to be okay with Antonio Brown. It's not a large risk. It's a 3rd and a 5th round pick. You know, Oakland has a lot of picks in the first couple of rounds.
I would have switched.
But if you're the Steelers, why couldn't you get more for Antonio Brown?
I'll tell you why. It's the market. The market dictated it. There was no other team that was willing to give them more than that, obviously.
Yeah.
They shopped him around for a long time. The issue I have is the contract. Oakland Raiders, it's a $50 million deal for how many years?
54 for 3 years.
Okay. So what it is, it's almost the analogy, if Bryce Harper would have taken a short-term deal, let's say with the San Francisco team, okay? Mm-hmm. It's not a long-term deal. It's not a Bryce Harper deal. So it's a lot of money over a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. So in one way, if it doesn't work out, they did put a lot of guaranteed money on the front. I think $25 million, something like that. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of guaranteed money there. And in the world of football, where there is a much smaller cap, where baseball there's really no cap, there's a lot of money. So they're tying up. They're taking a bit of a risk.
It's the most money.
It's the most money
for 3 years. He's making the most now because Beckham was making $18 million. He's making 18.3, which isn't that much. You know, it's $18.3 million. But this whole video, and now I look really now you can barely see my face.
Sorry, I turned off the wrong.
But
my mistake.
The fact is about Antonio Brown is, and this video is all about Antonio Brown going to Oakland. The fit in Oakland is
subtle, but I'm beginning to learn it. That's what it's about. I didn't really know what it was about.
The fit in Oakland is a little bit of a risk. Obviously, you're taking on a guy that you don't know if he could retire any moment. This guy has a blonde mustache on his face.
I don't even know. Blonde mustache. Who cares about
this
that?
guy? Well,
I don't care if he has no mustache. I don't care if he shaves his eyebrows. I don't care if he shaves.
But it looks like he narrowed his mustache.
I don't care if he shaves his ass and walks backwards. All that matters is what he does between the lines.
Yes, but with football, you spend the majority of your time preparing, practicing, being in that facility. And Antonio Brown, he literally, this is a true story, he got suspended for the last game of the year because he pegged a football at one of his teammates and started a brawl at practice, okay? That's a factual story. It's also factual that Antonio Brown is spouting off on Twitter about Big Ben, about Colbert. Antonio Brown thinks that he runs the entire NFL, okay? He's one of the hardest guys in the NFL to deal with. That's why the market was so low for this guy, because this guy is one of the best receivers in football, and the Steelers could only get a 3rd and a 5th for him from the Oakland Raiders. That shows you how much of a problem this guy is to the whole NFL.
Well, I'm going to do a counterpoint to what you just said. He's also, thanks for letting me get my whole point out, he's also one of the hardest workers in football. So before he had this turbulence, he's been with the Steelers how many years? Probably no.
7.
7 years, okay?
Probably.
He's the first guy in. He's never been a problem. He's a hard worker, much like Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens, you know, was terrible in management. He created headaches, but he was a good teammate. People liked him. There's nobody who worked harder. There's nobody who trained harder in the offseason. So I believe that this guy is a hardworking guy. He's going to have a new start with John Gruden. He wants to make money. He's not an old guy. He's only got a 3-year deal. He's got every reason to prove himself. That's why they gave him a 3-year deal. And the issue I have, which is really, you might say it's not related to Antonio Brown, but I think it really is Derek Carr, the quarterback, is he the right guy? Does he have enough arm strength? Is he the franchise's future? And the question is, what is your opinion on that? Mm-hmm. And again, we don't know Gruden. Like you said, there are a lot of people who can talk about Antonio Brown and actually know him. So the fact that we don't know him doesn't mean we can't speak about him.
Yeah.
If we knew him really well, I'm sure we'd be speaking about him also. So that point is
in a completely biased way, in a completely in a pro Antonio way, because we don't want to fracture that relationship.
Well, that's not true. I
it would be a watered down.
There's
show.
certain good people. Like I think one thing about Stephen A. Smith, he knows all these people well. He's not averse to taking a hostile stand against an athlete. There's not a lot of people like that.
And he mends a lot of bridges. He breaks a lot of bridges. Like Kevin Durant. But I mean, the fact is, you just said. Listen. You just said you just gave a haymaker right to my face, and I can't even counter. You said that Terrell Owens and Antonio Brown were good teammates. I don't think Terrell Owens was a good teammate whatsoever. And like Antonio Brown, Terrell Owens didn't get along with Donovan McNabb. If he would have gotten along with McNabb, but McNabb was the quarterback. Terrell Owens was doing push-ups on his lawn. He literally is an attention whore, and that's why Jeff Garcia and the 49ers traded him, and that's why he couldn't stay in one spot because nobody could get along because the guy's ego was so big. Now, Antonio Brown, you're getting this wrong. I like this move for the Oakland Raiders. I'm excited about Antonio Brown. I want Antonio Brown to be great. In fact, for the majority of his career, he's awesome. He backs up the talk with amazing play. And until the end of this season, I think the last couple of months, Antonio Brown has been acting a little more polarizing, but I think he's been pretty low-key most of his NFL career. I just think right now he just saw that he wanted to make more money. He got a restructured contract. I'm a pro Antonio Brown guy. I am. There's athletes that I don't really like. Antonio Brown for the Oakland Raiders, a team that needs excitement. Now, I'm not a diehard Raiders fan, but I believe it's very exciting, and I'm hoping that I want Antonio Brown to succeed in a huge way. I do. I'm rooting for the guy, and I don't think the guy's a bad guy whatsoever. I think he's really talented. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer, and you're absolutely right about the practice thing. Very, very good point. Although on social media this past year, he's been a little bit polarizing, or he's been very controversial towards his teammates. In practice, all the reports is that this guy is one of the best players in practice, and that's why John Gruden is going to love this guy. So now we talk about Derek Carr in Oakland.
Please.
That's a completely different discussion.
It is.
Derek Carr, but it is related all to Antonio Brown. Derek Carr, 3 years ago, was a confident player. He was an MVP caliber player. He had the injury happen to him, and Derek Carr's he's honestly been marginal. He's been bad. He's been very average. He's been very bad. Now, will Derek Carr in the second year under Gruden, which is a very tough offense, will he improve his level of play? I'm willing to give Carr about 10 more games to prove himself, especially with Antonio Brown. Now that you have this wide receiver that expects so much, I'm willing to give Carr at least 10 games. Now, the thing I'll ask you, and the thing that I want you to assess, is I want you to give your opinion on Derek Carr, but also Antonio Brown happens to be very good friends with Derek Carr, but he also happens to be great friends with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is a friend of his cousin, Hollywood Brown. They're cousins, Hollywood Brown. So if Kyler went to the Raiders, what do you think? Should Kyler go to the Raiders, and is Derek Carr a good quarterback? What do you think about Carr?
So, number one, I think Carr has not been the same since the injury. I did note, not even this year, but 2 years ago, in the winter games, particularly the game that I watch a lot of Eagles football, when I see him coming back east, whether he's playing in Washington, he played the NFC East that year. Now, obviously, the Cowboys are indoors, but when he played the Giants, played the Eagles, he played the Redskins, he was terrible outdoors. He's a guy, I think his arm is medium, or maybe even less than average.
Yes.
And so
it looked terrible
to win in the NFL, November, December, that's where you make the hay, not September and October. So do I really think, now granted, you're out in the West Coast, you're out in Oakland, the weather's pretty nice out there. But the fact is this guy, does he have the arm? Does he have the talent? Does he have the foot speed? Does he have the leadership? Does he have the decision-making ability? All of those things. And I watched a lot of Raiders games last year. Again, the whole year was a loss. They kept on losing games. You have a new coach, a new system. The whole thing was bad. So obviously, Derek Carr that wasn't put
There
in a
is
good light.
excuses. He had Marcel Aitman. He had Jordy Nelson, who's really old. He had no weapons. He had 2 tackles. He had Doug Martin. He had nothing around him. The cupboard was bare.
So you're asking me,
he is a great leader.
So you're asking me my opinion. Do I think he's a good quarterback? I think he's slightly below average quarterback. Do I think that John Gruden is going to want to ride with this guy through, this Gruden's got another 9 years on his 10-year contract? Absolutely not. I don't think that. The second question you brought is Kyler Murray. I think it's the worst kept secret in football. Kyler Murray is going to the Arizona Cardinals. That's what's happening. That's why Kyler Murray didn't have to work at it. He just doesn't have to worry. He's going to go there. Arizona is going to somehow send Josh Rosen somewhere. They're going to unload him. They'll probably end up getting the same kind of thing, 3rd and 5th round draft pick. I don't think people love him. He had a terrible year well, not him. The Cardinals had a terrible year. The fact that Cardinals were terrible, do you think that devalued Josh Rosen's value? Do you think that? I think it is. It does.
I really think, if he played well, it would have.
So the fact is, why it goes back to this. Why did the Eagles just release Nick Foles? You know what? If there were just a lot of franchises just hungering for starting quarterbacks, the Eagles could have basically signed him to a franchise tag and traded him. But you know what? There's only a few places, maybe Washington, maybe Jacksonville. They didn't want to take a chance. So likewise, I don't know where the market is for Josh Rosen. It's not. I know we started with
That's
Antonio
a different
Brown,
conversation.
but I think it's all good.
I want to talk about Carr.
Okay, let's talk about Carr, and let's keep rolling.
Derek Carr. Well, first you look at Oakland, okay? Derek Carr, the one thing you have in Derek Carr is you have a quarterback that's very smart. You have a great leader, okay? Antonio Brown and Derek Carr, they're bought into each other. They're becoming great friends. They met each other at the Pro Bowl. A large reason why Antonio Brown is going to Oakland is because Antonio Brown is because Derek Carr is there. He's tied in.
So that's
Derek Carr is a terrific leader. I think he does have a live arm. He makes quick decisions. I'm willing to give Carr more time. He's been absolutely downright mediocre and pretty bad the last 2 years. I think even Carr would admit that to you. But I'm ready to see Derek for one more year. Now, here's the next option. If Kyler Murray, for some reason, is there at 4, Kyler Murray, we discussed on here, I think Kyler Murray's a game changer. He's a Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan type of competitor that's never lost in his career. Oakland, if they love him that much, they take him at 4. But if he's not there at 4, they're going to get a great defensive player like a Josh Allen, okay? They're going to do that. But then look for this guy to possibly slide down the board. You just talked about quarterbacks. When you look at a college football program, you got to have quarterbacks compete with Derek Carr. You got to recruit over their heads so that people are competing. So Drew Lock. Let me finish. Drew Lock is a quarterback. If the Giants take Haskins or don't take a quarterback at all, the Miami Dolphins, they have a new head coach. They might want Tua Tagovailoa next year. They might not take a quarterback. The Redskins have Case Keenum. They have McCoy. They might not take a quarterback. It's possible that Drew Lock gets past the 15th pick, and then the Raiders, who have 24 and the 27th pick, they could package a package together to get Drew Lock late in the first round. And they like Drew Lock. They saw him at the Senior Bowl. That would be a very good option. Then you can use one of those later round picks to get a quarterback.
Okay, so first I'd like to make a little station ID. We are Rover Sports. We are here, of course, on YouTube and Periscope. I'm Bruce of Sports.com, here with Spencer G. We primarily cover pro football, college football, pro basketball, college basketball. Heading into the college basketball season, a lot to talk about. We started this talking about Antonio Brown. We certainly welcome comments. This happens to be a recorded video, but most of our stuff is recorded live on YouTube. And the last thing I want to tell you is that our main sponsor, anybody who's on the East Coast who has a problem with their joints, that is their shoulders, their knees, their hips, their low back, there's really 3 options out there. One is surgery. The other option is medicines, and that's a Band-Aid. The third is regenerative medicine. So our newest sponsor is Philadelphia PRP and Regenerative Medicine, PRP, and Stem Cell Institute, based in the Philadelphia area in a 6,000 square foot place. Fantastic staff. So if anybody's interested, you could call on the East, of course, between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday. 521-6063. I'm trying to read off the teleprompter. I'm not doing a good job. So again, Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute is 610-521-6063. So now we're getting back to the talk. Oakland Raiders. You believe it's generally a good move for the Raiders?
I believe it's tremendous. You only give a third and a fifth rounder up. You have tons of cap space. It's only 3 years. It's a hell of a deal. This guy's, his upside, you talked about it. He could be the best receiver in the NFL. You gave away Amari Cooper, essentially. You traded Amari Cooper. You got back a first-round pick, and then you traded third and fifth rounders for Antonio Brown on the dollar. Antonio Brown is a lot better wide receiver than pretty much Amari Cooper, than pretty much anybody in the entire league. Again, he is a Hall of Fame caliber receiver that still got the most touchdowns in the NFL. It's a tremendous move for Oakland because they have 4 picks in the top 2 rounds. They didn't even have to give up anything for that. So it's quite a haul. It's an absolute steal. It's a robbery for the Oakland Raiders. I think it's great. It's a great investment and a risk. I want to talk about 2 other topics here before we end our show, because I think we covered the Antonio Brown signing. We're really excited, I think, for the Oakland Raiders. I want to ask you about Arizona and Josh Rosen, because you brought that up. I have some thoughts about that, but how do you think the Cardinals should proceed with Josh Rosen and Kyler Murray? How do you think they should proceed?
I think they should be definitive. I'll use the analogy of the Eagles. When the Eagles knew they were drafting Carson Wentz, they were able to trade Sam Bradford. And obviously, Sam Bradford's a whole different story than Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen has a lot more value. But if I really believe that Cliff Kingsbury is, he's such a fan of Kyler Murray. He's known him. He's coached him. I think there's a large reason Kyler Murray isn't looking back to baseball at all, because he knows he's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to be slotted as a first-round pick. He's going to make a lot of money. Right. He knows it. And a lot of that's going to be guaranteed money. So I believe that he's going to the Arizona Cardinals. So personally, let's look at Kyler Murray. Why would I want to go there? He's a player's coach for sure. He's a friend. He's a young guy. Yeah. Arizona Cardinals have been bad for a while. I think their fan base, they're knowledgeable, but they're not ridiculously hard. Like I think the Giants and Eagles fan bases, even the 49ers fan bases, Cowboys. When you go to Arizona, there's a lot to do other than watch professional football. Yeah. So I think Kyler Murray's going to have a chance to grow in the position. Not that much. Again, there's not a lot of expectations. Yes. And he's going to make money. He's going to live in a beautiful spot. I think it's a great life. I think it's a great thing. So the next question is, exactly to answer your question, I'm looking at franchises, and Washington Redskins just picked up Case Keenum. Okay, so they put some money into that. So if they didn't pick up Case Keenum, I would think they would have been a prime candidate to possibly trade for Josh Rosen. I still
think they could.
Think they could still do both? Yeah, could they do both?
Case Keenum's a backup quarterback. He's not going to be starting this year. If he's starting this year, then they're only going to win about 6 games. Then the next year they'll draft a quarterback. I don't know why they would roll out. So
that's reasonable. Keenum. So maybe Case Keenum's a backup. Maybe they have a genuine quarterback competition between Josh Rosen. So I think there's a lot of franchises where the quarterback is set. But Washington's one of the areas. Yeah. So what other potential landing spots do you see?
Well, this is what I think the Cardinals should do with Josh Rosen. Sam, you mentioned the Eagles. The Eagles handled it perfectly with Sam Bradford. They kept him the entire offseason. They kept him in the preseason. And then what happens every year in the NFL? A quarterback goes down. Deshaun Watson goes down. Aaron Rodgers last year hurt. With the Vikings, Bridgewater
went down. Yep. And they traded him, and they got a decent.
Guess what? They got a 14th overall pick. They got a first rounder for him.
That's a good haul, right?
So if you're Arizona, you do not move Rosen unless you get a first-round pick. I believe you hold on to Rosen. And, in fact, Rosen versus Kyler Murray will be a great quarterback battle. It'll be good for Kyler Murray. It will be good for Josh Rosen. Also, Josh Rosen will look great in the preseason. He'll be going against second-string players. His numbers will be inflated. And
there'll be trade value then. Is that what you're saying?
Trade value whenever a quarterback gets hurt in the middle of the year, because Josh Rosen was the 10th overall selection. If you're Arizona, don't just trade him for a second or third rounder right now. Be patient, wait it out. There's no reason to act on it. Keep Josh Rosen.
Unless somebody knocks you over with the great trade.
With a first-round pick. Exactly. Keep him there. And I know you might be holding him hostage. I know there's a lot of Rosen fans that'll hate that. I don't think Josh Rosen will like it. I don't think Rosen will like it, but who cares?
And I don't think the Cardinals
who cares?
The Cardinals ownership shouldn't care.
Shouldn't care.
They've got to rule the roost. NFL's got the strongest. Listen, they have the strongest and most powerful ownership, and the NFL players are the weakest union by far of all the 4 major sports.
Well,
it's really true. I mean, who's close? Baseball has the most powerful union.
The basketball.
Basketball's got a very powerful players union.
And again, with basketball, the sport is so ridiculous that players don't even play for teams. That, like Anthony Davis is like, I want to leave, so bye guys, I'm leaving.
You don't see that
even with 2 years left. Yeah, football I like because the players actually stay with the organizations. It's actually a watchable product, and the players are actually loyal to the organizations. But anyway,
there's one last topic.
Michael Bennett going to the Patriots.
It's funny. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about.
All right.
So in my opinion, I think it's a good deal for the Patriots. Marcellus Bennett, I think, is a tight end, right?
Yeah.
He's supposedly coming out of retirement,
which is awesome.
Which
good.
I think is going to give the Patriots a shot in the arm. Michael Bennett wanted a salary increase. The Eagles are cash-strapped. Michael Bennett had a really good year, maybe the most productive defensive end last year for the Eagles. Obviously, Barnett is back this year. They signed Brandon Graham. So the Eagles were able to unload the salary of Michael Bennett. I think they liked him, didn't love him. And I think at least behind the scenes, I can infer he wasn't their favorite. And they're happy to unload him.
Personality-wise?
Personality-wise.
So personality-wise, he didn't get along.
I don't think it's that strong. I just think he kind of made waves and he's kind of a rough personality. Just not terrible.
That's a big deal. Because the Eagles, right? Why wouldn't you pay a guy who had 9 sacks? Because I told you that when you signed Michael Bennett, you had a lot of baggage. And that's why for the Patriots...
You told me that all year, didn't you?
I don't know.
You did tell me that all year.
Because...
And he looked like a model citizen from afar. We didn't really know, right? He didn't make waves in the locker room, did he?
No, but there's an arrest warrant on him in Houston, Texas for pushing an older lady.
He
was involved.
Fake news.
Remember he was in how about a Vegas shooting issue when he said that literally, that he was being racially profiled when really the facts proved that he was otherwise lying. I think that and also when you look at Michael Bennett, he had a whole brawl with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had such a dirty play on Brandon Linder. He went right after him, tried to go after his knees during a kneel down. Michael Bennett has been a very polarizing player, to put it mildly. And I was exactly right when I told you that acquiring him would be a lot of risk in the locker room, and that's why he's getting traded for a 5th-round pick. And I don't know why the Patriots would accept a player with this kind of, headache.
Can I answer the question?
I know Bennett's coming back, his brother's coming back, and his brother's, I think, a more tame personality, but I still don't understand it. Why the Patriots are doing this.
I can tell you why. The Patriots believe that they have a culture kind of like Stalinistic, very heavy-handed with Belichick. They have a lot of law and order in that place, a lot of secrecy, and they've been able to handle a lot of players that have been, they handled LeGarrette Blount for a year. They handled Randy Moss. I think that some people thought he was a troublemaker a little bit, but when he went to the Patriots, he was a model citizen.
But he was only there a year.
Listen, here's the point. Michael Bennett is going to turn 34. That's a fact. Yes? Okay, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to let you complete it. Got to do a little doctorate here.
It's all right. I'll complete it right. Well, it's just about over. So.
Okay, so
thanks you guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good one, and take care, and thanks for watching.